Indiana Fever many fans is still poking fingers at head coach Stephanie White for actually making the game not entertaining anymore, bro. This motion offense has to be addressed, and Stephanie White has to be held accountable because it's truly the offense that she's running, and it is not for Caitlin Clark at this point. Now, both Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White spoke to the media immediately.
At times, we could have played a little bit faster, and I think that's on me, like not conceding in that. We still got to play up tempo. We still got to play fast. But I mean, I thought for the most part we did a lot of stuff that coach wanted us to do, and you know, that wasn't why we lost.
I can't hold you, man. That kind of looked like she let that slip out, man. I don't know. But I mean, we all see it. When they play slow, it's just not a good team, man. They're not as good as we see that they could be, right? So they need to play fast, man. I think, you know, they don't necessarily look that good when they're playing half-court ball. Maybe taking something from the Valkyries, man. The Valkyries run, all right? They be running.
What if I told you the WNBA's brightest star is slowly being erased in plain sight? Caitlin Clark just shattered the silence. And what she revealed, it's not just shocking, it's devastating. She didn't flinch. She didn't sugarcoat it. Caitlin Clark walked into that post-game mic and dropped a bomb so raw you could hear the room freeze. No scripted PR lines. No trust the process. Just the unfiltered exhaustion of a generational talent who's been through hell in sneakers. And right there, she called out more than her sore body. She hinted at a storm brewing behind the curtain. And at the center of it, her own coach, Stephanie White. It wasn't just frustration, it wasn't even shade. It was a veiled cry for help from a star who's been shouldering an entire league's weight while being gaslit into silence. Clark doesn't look tired. She looks depleted, like someone who's run out of soul before she ever ran out of breath.
The league needs to take care of Caitlin, not for special treatment purposes, but that's who everybody's there to see. Everybody wants to see Caitlin Clark play. And if you let other teams and other people beat the shit out of her, she's going to spend 2 weeks out injured. And your attendance is going to drop because people aren't going to get the chance to see her. And if you actually want to be paid the same as the NBA players, obviously not by actual dollar for dollar, but for revenue percentage, you need to protect her. You need her to be playing at her best and not be having the
Las Vegas Aces defeated the Indiana Fever 89-81. And this game was disappointing for many fans, not only for the fact that it seemed like the Fever had this one in the bag, but they kind of gave it away at the end of the game, but also because it seemed like there was something off with this Fever team. They didn't have the same energy and spark that we all know and love. So many fans are asking, what is going on?
Every game, it's the same script. Cameras flash, fans scream, and Caitlin plays like her life depends on it. But off the court, she's unraveling. The body's there, but the light behind her eyes is flickering. The joy is cracking. You don't need to be a basketball expert to see it. She's running on fumes, caffeine, and sheer stubbornness. And the WNBA? They're too busy cashing in on her name to notice they're slowly breaking the very girl who brought them back to relevance. They wanted her to save the league. They begged for her spotlight, her brand, her brilliance.
I think I have figured out the solution to the Indiana Fever's problems. Hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. This is what we got to do. We got to put Caitlin Clark off ball. We need to run a motion offense. So when the defense takes away what Caitlin Clark does best, we have other players that can still perform. So when she does have bad games, we're not completely dead in the water. I think that is the best way to move forward with this Indiana Fever team.
First talk about Caitlin Clark. So she struggled once again in this game. She was 7 for 20 from the field and 1 for 10 from 3, which puts her at 1 for 17 over the past few games. And if you're a fan of Caitlin Clark, you know that this is so unlike her. She is arguably the best shooter in the WNBA, and she is having a significant cold streak over the past 2 games. But her missing shots isn't actually what bothers me. The thing that bothered me most in the game yesterday was the one shot that she passed up. Now, she had been missing a few shots, and if you guys were on my live stream, I said the thing that she needs to do is to continue shooting. Shooters shoot. The only way to break a cold streak is to continue shooting.
Out of sync. Her coach, Stephanie White, flailing on the sidelines like she's miming instructions in a hurricane. One minute she wants fast tempo, next minute she's screaming for patience. And Clark, she's caught in the middle, trying to decode the madness while carrying an entire city on her shoulders. This isn't just about screens and spacing anymore. This is psychological warfare. Imagine trying to lead a team when every pass you throw is followed by an elbow to the ribs and a glance to the bench, only to see a coach who looks more confused than confident. Clark's instincts, the very magic that made her unstoppable, are being second-guessed, dimmed, broken, not by injury, not by age, but by an environment so toxic it's rewriting who she is as a player, slowly.
Wait, what'd you say? Wait, what? Did you just tell me that Stephanie White went on an interview tour this whole entire offseason saying exactly that? Did you just tell me Stephanie White went on an interview? So how come when Caitlin Clark has a bad game, this team looks like absolute dog shit? How come when Caitlin Clark isn't busy backpacking this team, it looks like absolute dog shit, coach? Just a question. Just a question. What we saw today, folks, I feel bad for everybody that had to sit through that. Everybody that wasted 2 hours and 25 minutes watching the Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces. I feel bad that we had to sit through that. That was a tough watch.
Well, I think you have to look at things a little bit holistically. I think Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her.
Well, I be damned. I be damned. 7 for 20 from the field. 1 for 10 from the three-point line. And look at those turnovers. 8 turnovers. She leads the league in turnovers. But guess what? Her Clarkies are only going to be impressed and they're going to brag about the 19 points and 10 assists. Me personally, I'm all about efficiency. I'm concerned about those last 3, them turnovers, which she leads the league in turnovers. She is shooting horrible from the field. And as far as them three-pointers, in the last 2 games, she's only made 1 three-pointer. And that's the one against.
But once she delivered, once she brought in the crowds, the sponsors, the ratings, they left her out there, alone, to be hunted, to be hacked, shoved, jawed at, disrespected by defenders who play more like linebackers than guards. This isn't basketball, it's open season. And instead of blowing whistles, the referees are conducting some sort of sick experiment. How much abuse can one woman take before she crumbles? And the league's response, not a rule change, not a fine, just silence. Or worse, smiling Instagram graphics while she gets slammed into the floorboards. But it's not just the league, it's Indiana, the franchise that drafted her and gave her a paper crown, then handed her a broken throne. You'd think when you land the biggest prospect in women's basketball history, you'd build a kingdom around her. Nope. They gave her a couple folding chairs and a playbook written in invisible ink. Her offense, chaotic. Her teammates,
soul-sucking drain wrapped in a glossy WNBA logo.
That Indiana Fever were trying to be that team that runs you off the floor, that hustles. I felt like they were the deepest team. Like, looking at the roster, man, they actually have some players that could run the floor. And I'm just like, dang, bro, it's really crazy to see that they're not really trying to run the floor like I would expect them to. And also using Michaela Timpson. Like, that is some young pair of legs, man. You should be using Michaela Timpson to help you run the floor, play lockdown defense, hustle defense, you know, winning the 50-50 balls. You need young legs to do that, man.
Brutally, like watching a masterpiece get waterlogged one page at a time. And here's the darkest part. This isn't a fluke. This isn't a rookie wall. This is systemic. They aren't just failing to protect her, they're letting her be erased by incompetent coaching, by violent play, by petty jealousy dressed up as competition. Other players don't just guard her, they target her. They try to humiliate her physically and emotionally because deep down they know she's better, so they don't want to compete. They want to crush her spirit, and somehow the WNBA lets it happen week after week, game after game, and just when it couldn't get more bitter, in walks Gino Auriemma. A legend, a coach who could have extended a hand. Instead, he throws a grenade. No context, no grace. Just a smug offhand swipe at a 22-year-old who's already being dragged through emotional quicksand. That wasn't critique. That was character assassination disguised as authority, and it landed like a sucker punch, not just because of what was said, but because of who said it.
Alright, but this is a regular season game. There's no player that's going to be that depressed about a loss. The emotion that she's having right now, that's emotion that you have when you lose a championship. But they didn't lose a championship. So it's only one other thing. It's the coach. I knew something was up, y'all. I played basketball all my life. I played point guard. There was something off about Miss Caitlin when I was watching that Aces game. And I couldn't put my finger on it. It just seemed like Miss Caitlin, she was definitely unmotivated. She looked defeated the whole game. She didn't look like she was having fun. And that is always because of the coach. The reason any professional athlete or any ball player is not having fun on the field, because this is the game they love. They've been loving this since they was a kid. Because the only reason the player is not having a good time playing the game that they love is because the coach is trying to put shackles on them, trying to control them too much. With a player like Caitlin, you gotta let them loose. This is something that Steve Kerr had to realize when he was dealing with Steph. Steph was shooting all them logo threes. He was shooting all the shots early in the shot clock. Steve Kerr would shake his head. He'd be like, oh, what are you doing? But after a while, he had to let this player do his thing. Bro, that was the first time I ever seen Caitlin Clark walk the ball down the court. You know what? I don't think Stephanie White is like a fan of Caitlin's demon time and, you know, her getting all riled up and pumping up the crowd. I don't think she's a fan of that shit. Some coaches, like, they don't like that shit. For example, when Allen Iverson came into the league, him and Larry Brown did not get along because Larry Brown used to tell him to tone it down and not be himself and stuff like that. But I think that's what's going on with this team right now. Because when I was watching that game, man, it just did not feel right. Like, she just looked like she was just so sad about playing. It felt like she was being forced to play a certain type of way.
Behind the scenes, it's not just messy, it's haunted. The energy in that Fever locker room feels like a funeral with sneakers. There's no chemistry, no joy, just the empty echoes of failed plays and even emptier promises. Caitlin Clark, a woman who once lit up arenas with pure charisma, now walks into games like she's suiting up for war, and she's doing it without allies, without clarity, without the kind of infrastructure every great player deserves. It's not a team. It's a group therapy session run by confusion and sponsored by heartbreak. This was supposed to be her glow-up season, the rise, the chapter where she takes everything she learned and dominates the league. Instead, it's been a slow-motion demolition of her confidence. Her passes are late, her shots rushed, her face tighter every night, because you can't play free-flowing basketball when you're constantly bracing for impact. You can't be the face of a league that refuses to face the truth. And here's the truth. If this continues, she shouldn't stay. She shouldn't smile through the pain or keep carrying a system that's more interested in exploiting her than protecting her. Because if Caitlin Clark walks away, it won't just be her loss. It'll be a mass exodus of fans, of hope, of future stars who saw how the league treated its best and decided it wasn't worth the bruises. And when that happens, no marketing campaign will save them. No hashtag will bring her back, because you don't get a second chance after you bury your brightest flame. They didn't just let the lights go out, they snuffed them out with ego, with silence, with incompetence. And if the WNBA doesn't change, Caitlin Clark won't be the one who lost. They will.